In California, lawyers plan on calling 11 witnesses today, but because there's a gag order in this case, we're not sure who they are or what they're going to be testifying about. DNA evidence took center stage yesterday, and FBI experts said a dark strand of hair found on Scott's boat probably did come from Laci Peterson. But Scott Peterson's defense team said the kind of DNA testing used on her, on that hair, is unreliable. More on the case, we're joined by Fox News legal analyst and former prosecutor Lise Wheel and criminal defense attorney Ginny Walia. Thanks to both of you. Lisa, I want to start with you. Tell me, Mark Geragos' defense for this DNA testing. We think of DNA as always being reliable, but this is a different type of analysis, this mitochondrial DNA. Is it not as reliable?
Right. It's not as reliable, but it's still pretty darn reliable, Jane. It's about 1 in 112 people could have DNA that's similar to this DNA. Is that perfect? No. Would you want 1 in a billion? Absolutely. That's not this kind of DNA, but it's still good evidence. It won't be discounted just because of that.
But Ginny, they can't say definitively if it is hers, so what good does it do? And even if it is Laci Peterson, so what? So it was on some pliers that were in his boat. Couldn't her hair have been, as the defense has claimed, on her jacket or on his person and been transferred?
I completely agree with you. First of all, they cannot say to the exclusion of other people that this is the person that this DNA belongs to. Mitochondrial DNA is passed down through the mother. So basically, all of Laci Peterson's siblings, her brother, sister, mother, all these people would have the exact same strand. And 1 out of 112 Caucasian people, that's the group out of the FBI's database, could have this match. That means if there's at least 100 people in that courtroom, at least one person in the courtroom who's not related to them could have the same match. So it's not reliable. And you're right, there was also testimony regarding contamination, and that's also a possibility, but the FBI doctor has said that they take very good precautions and measures to make sure that does not occur.
But we're looking at this as one piece of evidence, Jane, in a broad, a big case here of circumstantial evidence. If this was the prosecution's only piece of evidence, I'd say absolutely, it's not going to make the case. But you've got the fact that it's not only on this hair, is not only on the pliers, it's wrapped around the pliers in a boat that she apparently had never been to. So how could it have gotten there? That's what the prosecution is going to argue, other than in foul play when Scott took her there after he had killed her. Now, again, is it a perfect piece of evidence? Absolutely not. But it's a circumstantial case, and you've got to realize that those jurors in that courtroom are hearing these pieces of evidence bit by bit over all of these days. They're not just taking them as one sort of, smoking gun kind of piece of evidence.
Okay, let's move on to some other testimony that came later in the day. Yesterday, they had a witness who was in the park who originally had talked to police because he said he saw somebody he thought looked like Laci, which would fit into the defense attorney's timeline of when she was alive and when she wasn't. But then he got on the stand and said once he saw her photograph, he was 100% sure it wasn't her. Ginny, does that help the prosecution? How important is that bit of information and testimony?
I think that is a defense tactic. I don't think he really is trying to discredit the witness, that the witness is, changing his mind or he's been influenced by the police. I think he's just trying to give the prosecutors something to latch on to, and they've been doing that in the past. When he is attacking some of their evidence, they're running around in circles trying to defend that, and you're absolutely right. There's nothing there. That man thought he saw her. Later on, he saw the picture, and he said, it wasn't her, and Geragos knows it.
And Lisa,
the problem, Jane, is that it looks...
Go ahead.
Yeah, it looks a little bit disjointed, and here's why. As a prosecutor, you want to come out strong. You want to put your theory of the case. You want to put your story on. You don't want to be anticipating necessarily what the defense is going to say. In other words, Mark Geragos is going to say that it could have been somebody else out there, that out there walking, or it could have been Laci Peterson out walking past the timeline. And then the prosecution could come back and rebuttal after the defense has said that, and said, look, it wasn't this other lady, and this guy was wrong. The juries, I think we're all a little bit confused as to why the prosecution would want to be putting on that evidence now when they should be coming out strong, clean, succinct, and telling their story.
And it would make more sense, probably.
And I want to point out that 2 out of
Go ahead, Ginny.
those 4 women said that, I want to point out 2 out of those 4 women said that they are very certain that they did not go for a walk on December 24th, so their testimony seems irrelevant, really.
All right, well, maybe it'll all make sense eventually. We will see. Lise Wheel, our Fox News analyst.
Exactly.
And Ginny Walia, who is a defense attorney. We thank you for being here. Well, Hurricane Ivan has devastated the island of Grenada in the Caribbean. It is now moving